She didn't speak much, didn't even knock. She just fell on him in the middle of the night. Trembling, freezing, silent. An alien girl, shivering on top of a human man she barely knew. And when he asked why, she whispered just one word: "They're here." No one believed him. No one believed him. No records showed she even existed. And yet, she knew every secret the station buried. Every room where someone vanished without a trace, and every reason he was next. Now he must choose. Walk away, or uncover a truth that was never meant for humans. But what she truly was would break him. He had been alone for too long. After 6 months on the space station Orion 9, engineer Mark Harlan had grown used to silence. The kind of silence that buzzed in your ears, that made you feel like even your own thoughts echoed off metal walls. Then she arrived. Her name was Cyrenay Leanne from the cold planet Virali. Small frame, glowing blue eyes, silver skin that shimmered under the station lights. She never spoke much, just nodded or blinked. A quiet presence, almost ghost-like, assigned to Mark for the new interspecies roommate program. He didn't mind her. She kept her side of the room clean, ate her food without noise, slept on a thin mat rolled up near the vent, always curled tight, like she was trying to disappear. The only rule was simple: no physical contact between species. Everyone signed it, no exceptions. Kay never even been near her, till that night. The emergency lights flickered red at 2:46 station time. Mark woke up to a strange weight on his chest. At first, he thought it was just his blanket, bunched up weird. But then something moved. He opened his eyes fast. She was on top of him, Sierra. Her body was pressed against his chest, shivering violently. Her arms were wrapped around him like she was holding on for life. Her breath came fast and sharp. She didn't look at him. She was staring past him, eyes wide, frozen in terror. "What's Sierra?" he whispered. She didn't answer. He tried to sit up, but she tightened her grip. That's when he heard it. Scraping, a slow metallic scrape across the outer wall, like claws. Then a low sound, almost like a growl but too mechanical to be alive. It passed their room and disappeared. Silence again. She finally moved her head, just a little, then whispered, "They're here." Mark didn't know what to do. She wasn't allowed to touch him. If the cameras caught it, he'd be reported. But for some reason, the room lights didn't turn on, and the AI didn't respond to voice commands. Everything was offline. Even the air felt wrong, cold, heavy, almost like the station had forgotten to breathe. "Who's here?" he asked. She didn't answer, but slowly she pulled away from him, her limbs shaking. Then she did something strange. She touched his face. Just a single finger, cold and trembling, pressed to his cheek. And she said, "Warm." That's when he realized her body temperature was dropping fast. "Your room heater's broken," he muttered, getting up and checking the unit. Completely dead, and the emergency system didn't kick in either. It wasn't just her heater. The entire room was freezing. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I asked. She hugged her arms and turned her back. "I wasn't supposed to be here," she said softly. He brought her a thermal blanket. She didn't take it. She just stood there, blinking. He wrapped it around her anyway. That's when he noticed the scratches. Thin, deep marks across her back. Fresh, bleeding. "Who did this to you?" She looked up. Her voice dropped to a whisper again. "I escaped." Mark's heart skipped. Escaped from what? But before she could answer, the red lights turned green. Power returned. AI came back online, and the scraping sound. Gone. The next morning, no one talked about the emergency light failure. Security logs showed no error, no vent damage, no intruder alerts. But Mark knew what he saw. And Sierra. She wasn't in her corner anymore. Her mat was gone. Only one word was scratched into the metal near the vent. "Watch, the station was warm again." Systems were back to normal. Lights were steady. Vents hummed softly. But Mark couldn't stop checking the corners of the room. Couldn't stop looking at the spot where Sierra had written watch with her nails. That word burned in his mind like a silent scream, and she was gone. No note. No trace. No alert from the AI. He asked Command where she went, but they said, "There's no record of an alien named Sierra assigned to your room." That made no sense. She had lived with him for 2 weeks. He checked the logs. Access denied. He tried the camera footage. Gone. It was like she'd been erased. But she hadn't erased her scent. That soft metallic smell still clung to the air. And her blood blue and shining still stained the corner where he found the scratch marks. Mark sat on his bunk, hands clenched. Then something beeped. His personal scanner lit up showing temperature data. He had programmed it weeks ago to monitor the room environment. But now it showed a sharp dip. From the night before, the temp had fallen 10 degrees below safe levels for Virali species. That wasn't just a heater malfunction. That was deliberate. He checked the rest of the station's temperature logs. Everything was fine. No errors. No drops. Only his room had suffered the freeze. His fingers shook. Was she being targeted? Why? That night, he couldn't sleep. He stayed awake, staring at the door, the vent, the floor. At 3:11, he heard it again. A soft sound. Not claws this time, but breathing. Faint, short breaths. Near his bed, he sat up slowly. And there she was, Sierra, curled beside the bed, pale, shivering. Her eyes blinked up at him. "I'm too cold," she whispered. "Where did you go?" he asked, stunned. But she didn't answer. Her lips were blue. She was freezing again. He grabbed the thermal blanket, wrapped her in it, and placed her beside the wall heater. He boosted the setting to the highest safe level. But even then, her body didn't warm fast enough. He looked at her again. She was holding something, a small, glowing crystal. It pulsed softly. She opened her hand and placed it in his. "It remembers," she said. Mark stared at it. "Remembers what?" She closed her eyes. Pain. As she slept, Mark scanned the crystal. It was organic tech, part memory storage, part biological recorder. Highly illegal. It had recorded her pain, her body temperature, her stress, and her location, which meant someone could track her. Someone already had. Morning came. She was better. She sat up, still weak, and finally started to speak. "My species," she said. "We don't survive alone. We regulate each other's heat." "You never told me that," Mark said. "I wasn't allowed to." "Who said that?" She paused. Then whispered, "The ones who built me." Mark froze. "Built you?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "There are more like me on other decks. Sleeping in cold rooms. Waiting to be taken. Taken by who?" She stared at the vent. "They come when the station sleeps." He didn't know what to believe. Was she a runaway experiment? Was this some government program? One thing was clear: her body couldn't survive the station's temperature at night. And no one seemed to care. So that night, he did something bold. He turned off the security cameras in his room. He placed extra blankets. He made sure the heater stayed on. And when Sierra asked, "Will you let me stay near you again?" he nodded. She lay down beside the bed, not on it, still following her own strange rule. But before she closed her eyes, she whispered something that made his skin crawl. "If I don't wake up tomorrow, don't trust the ones who come to collect my body." Mark didn't sleep that night. Kay lay awake, listening to her shallow breathing beside the bed. Sierra's face was calm, but her fingers twitched. Like she was trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape. At exactly 4:02 a.m., the room lights blinked once. Just once. But Mark noticed. His heart kicked. The lights weren't supposed to blink. not without a power surge. And the power grid was stable. He'd checked it himself. Then he heard the click. Soft, like a switch. He turned toward the vent. Nothing moved. No sound. But when he glanced at the door, something was different. The room camera light was off. It was always green, showing it was active. Now it was dark. Dead. Mark got up quietly and checked the console. The security feed was empty. Their room was no longer broadcasting video or audio. He ran a diagnostic. System locked. Access denied. Its clearance was enough to fix toilets, repair lights, patch hall leaks, but not to override lock surveillance. Something or someone had shut them off on purpose. He looked at Sierra. She was still sleeping. Her skin had warmed slightly under the heat lamp. But her hand was gripping something. A small black square. He gently pulled it from her grasp. It was a data chip. No label, no markings. He plugged it into his private pad. One file. Protocol 0. Silence. He clicked it. The screen showed flickering images, footage, logs, screen grabs, rooms just like his across the station. All showing alien roommates like Sierra. And each file had the same ending. Silence. After a few days, the cameras shut down. Then the temperature dropped. Then the aliens disappeared. No reports. No search teams. No questions. Just replacements. New assignments. Wiped logs. Rewritten rosters, like the old ones, never existed. Mark's hand shook as he scrolled. One image stopped him cold. A picture of Sarah in a different room. She looked younger, her eyes wider, her hands chained. The log entry said, Subject for 3V, heat-dependent hybrid. Failed communication trials, relocated for disposal. He stared at the word disposal. She wasn't assigned to him. She was dumped on him. To vanish, he slammed a pad shut. She stirred, eyes half open. You weren't supposed to see that, she said softly. Why didn't you tell me? Mark whispered. I didn't think you'd care. Mark swallowed hard. But I do. She looked at him for a long moment, then sat up. I tried to tell others before. No one listened. Some laughed. One tried to trade me in. Mark's face turned cold. What do you mean? They offered me as a test subject, in return for a transfer off station. Said I wasn't fully real anyway. The station's AI crackled suddenly. A voice echoed through the speaker. Routine maintenance alert. All interspecies logs will be archived. Surveillance will resume at 0600 hours. Sierra flinched. They know, she whispered. They're coming soon. Who? But she was already moving. She grabbed a pen, pulled open the station wall panel, and began drawing again. Symbols, circles, marks that looked like language. What is that? He asked. Map, she said. The places they hide, the others are still frozen. Not dead, just sleeping. Mark stared. You mean they're alive? She nodded. They used us, then turned us off. Like broken machines, Mark felt like the floor tilted under him. Everything was wrong. This wasn't a station of peace. This was a lab. A floating, freezing, silent lab where living beings were erased quietly. And now he was part of it. A knock on the door snapped both their heads around. 3 slow knocks. Standard officer rhythm. Then a voice. Room check. Please stand aside. Sierra grabbed his hand tightly, her eyes locked on his. Don't let them take me. Not tonight. Mark stood, took a deep breath, then whispered to her, hide in the shaft. Don't come out till I knock twice. She nodded once and vanished into the wall. The door hissed open. 2 station officers stood there. No smile, no greeting. One said, just checking environmental controls. Got a report about temperature errors. Mark didn't blink. Everything's working fine here. The other officer looked past him into the room, then smiled, glad to hear it. They didn't step inside. They didn't even scan the air. They just turned and left. But as the door closed, Mark saw it. The officer's eyes glowed faint blue, just like Sierra's. Mark didn't speak after the officers left. He waited. 5 minutes, 10. Then to soft knocks on the vent. Sierra slipped back into the room. Her silver skin was streaked with dust, her eyes wide with worry. "They were not humans," she said. "I noticed," Mark replied. "Their eyes, same color as yours." She nodded. "They've started replacing the crew." Mark sat down, trying to understand what was happening. "Replaced with who?" "They're not my kind. They wear our face, speak our voice, but they're part of the project. Programmed to erase us quietly." He felt cold again. "How many more of you are here?" Sierra glanced down. "At least 20, maybe more. Some are in stasis. Some already gone. Gone where? No one knows. Every few weeks, a ship comes. No logs, no orders. It docks and leaves. The ones missing never return." Mark pulled up a list of all crew and alien roommates assigned in the last 6 months. He filtered names by room, then cross-checked shift activity. 3 names stood out. Alien roommate assignments that showed no exits, no transfers. Just silence. He checked their room footage. Data not found. He checked physical access logs. Cleared. Just like with Sierra. They weren't listed as dead, not even missing. They were just deleted. The next day, the officer who visited their room returned. This time, he came alone. He smiled politely and said, "Routine transfer. You've been selected for reassignment." "To where?" Mark asked. "No destination disclosed yet. Please follow protocol, and my roommate." The officer paused. "No such record exists." "You have no assigned roommate, Engineer Harlan." Mark clenched his fists. "I'm not leaving." The smile faded from the officer's face. "Refusal logged," he said, and walked away. Mark stared at the door long after it closed. That night, Sierra didn't speak. She just drew. This time, the map was bigger. Lines showing rooms. Paths, hidden maintenance shafts. Symbols marked in red. What are these? The ones who disappeared. Their rooms. She tapped a corner of the map. "That room," she said. "We need to go there." "Why?" "'Cause I think someone's still alive inside." Mark suited up. They moved through dark halls, sticking to blind spots. She knew the camera rhythms. Knew when to duck. When to crawl. She had done this before. Room D17 was sealed. Power offline. Manual override denied. But Sierra placed her hand on the lock panel. Her fingers glowed faint blue. The door slid open. Inside, it was freezing. Everything coated in a thin layer of frost. A sleeping mat, a cracked tablet, and a body. Curled in the corner, thin, still breathing. An alien boy, maybe her eyes closed, lips blue. Sierra ran to him and placed her hand on his chest. "He's alive." Mark stared. His heart beat louder. This wasn't one case. This was a system. They were freezing them, starving them, making them disappear. And now, they were coming for him too. Back in his room, Sierra and the boy hid in the vent while Mark hacked a terminal. He pulled security feeds from hidden logs. What he found made his blood run cold. There were 26 rooms like D17, all sealed, all quiet, all dark, all containing one frozen life. The next morning, Mark found a note slipped under his door. "You are being watched. You have seen too much. Transfer orders final. No signature. No seal. Just black ink." He turned to Sarah. "They're going to force me out." She said nothing. He continued. "If they separate us, I'll find a way back. I promise." Sierra didn't move, then whispered, "They won't separate us." "Why not?" "Because you're not going anywhere." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The AI voice glitched. Security lockdown, initiated. Human subject, Mark Harlan. Prepare for relocation. The door slammed shut. But before Mark could panic, the room vent burst open. 3 more alien hybrids, older, stronger, crawled out. One handed Sira a device, a small silver box. She turned to Mark. "This was never about survival," she said. "It was always about resistance." Mark stared. "You're not just refugees." Sira looked him in the eye. "We're soldiers. And we need you." Mark had so many questions. But the first thing he noticed, the one thing he couldn't ignore, was that the others looked like her. Not exactly, but close. Same blue glow in the eyes. Same shimmer under their skin. Same way they moved, like they didn't fully belong in gravity. And yet, one of them coughed like a human. Another swore in English under his breath. They weren't just alien, they were part human. Mark stared at Sarah. "You're not pure virali, are you?" She looked down, said nothing. One of the new arrivals answered for her. "She's a hybrid, like all of us." Mark blinked. "Hybrids? That's not possible. Interbreeding isn't not natural breeding," the other said. "We were made lab-born, designed for testing." Sira raised her head. They wanted to see if emotions could be removed. "From people like you," Mark's mouth went dry. "Me?" She nodded. "Humans, your kind. You feel too much. Fight too hard. So they mixed your DNA with ours to make something easier to control." Mark backed away a step. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you're already involved," she said. "And because we need your help." The truth hit like gravity. They weren't just some alien roommates. They were weapons or failed experiments hidden in plain sight. But something had gone wrong. They had escaped. Survived. And now they were waking the others. Mark walked to the vent. "You said others are frozen in sealed rooms." Sira nodded. "They were put in stasis when they resisted commands. Disobedience was punished with silence. One by one, they vanished. And now, we wake them all." Mark shook his head slowly. "That's going to get you all killed. We're already marked for death," she replied. "But not you. You can still walk out of here alive." Mark looked at her closely. "Then why warn me? Why not just let me go?" Her answer was quiet. "Because you covered me with your coat when I was cold." The words pierced deeper than any threat. He had never thought that moment meant anything, but to hurt had meant everything. Suddenly, the AI blared across the room. "Intrusion detected. Hallway 7F, human code red. Subject, Mark Harlan. Authorization suspended." Sira's eyes widened. "They're framing you." Mark turned to the others. "Then we don't have much time. How do we stop this?" The eldest hybrid, a woman with burn marks on her neck, stepped forward. "We don't stop it," she said. "We expose it." Mark frowned. "How?" She opened a metal pouch and pulled out a silver disc. "This holds every memory, every test, every lie they told. Sira smuggled part of it to you. This is the rest. If you upload this to the Central Command Core," she said, "the entire galaxy will know. But the core's sealed, guarded." The woman nodded. "That's why only a human can go near it." Mark stared at the disc, heavy in his hands, but heavier in meaning. He could walk away, or step into something that might never let him leave. Then he looked at Sira and remembered that freezing night, her curled body. Her whisper, warm, "I'll do it," he said. Sira touched his hand gently. For the first time, she smiled. "You're not like the others." Mark grinned weakly. "You say that like it's a compliment." "It is," she said. "Because you feel." Suddenly, the vent light flashed red. One of the hybrids shouted, "They've locked Sector 6. Movement incoming heavies." Sira stood fast. Mark looked at her in shock. "Are you ready to fight?" Her voice turned cold. "They called me a failed subject." She picked up a tool half-blade, half-scanner. "I'll show them how failed I really am." Mark tucked the disc into his vest, turned to the access shaft, and whispered, "Then let's burn their silence." The vents were narrow. Mark had to crawl with his elbows, every metal edge scraping his sleeves. Behind him, Syrah moved silently, her breath steady. The others stayed behind to mislead the patrol. Their mission was simple but deadly. Get to the Central Command Core, upload the disk, expose everything. But the path wasn't safe. At every turn, the vents split into dead ends, heat ducts, or locked hatches. Mark would have been lost without her. Syrah moved like she had crawled these tunnels her entire life. Maybe she had. "Stop," she whispered. Mark froze. She leaned close to a grate in the floor. Below, guards marched with smooth, mechanical steps. They weren't speaking, just walking, like they didn't need orders anymore. Not human, not fully alien. Something in between. They waited in silence. Mark's heart thudded loud in his chest. He was sure they could hear it. But after a minute, the guards turned a corner. Syrah opened the grate slowly. "We go down now," she said. "To the core," she shook her head. To the truth, they dropped into a storage room. Dim light flickered overhead. Frozen breath steamed from their mouths. Mark rubbed his arms. "Why is it so cold?" Syrah didn't answer. She walked to the back wall and touched it with her palm. A section hissed and slid open. Behind it, a hidden lab. The room was filled with tanks. Not water, stasis pods. Mark gasped. There were over a dozen of them, inside each one-and alien hybrid. All different, some looked more human. Some barely did. All were asleep. All had tubes running from their chests, feeding into a single machine. A black cube pulsing with blue veins. "What is this?" Mark whispered. Syrah stared at it like she had seen it in her nightmares. Their master key. She stepped close. This is where they take the memories, the language, the feelings. They store them, use them, then erase the rest. Mark swallowed. "They drain your minds." "Yes," she said. "And sell what's left. The body, the DNA, like parts of a machine." He walked closer to one of the pods. A girl floated inside. Eyes closed. Face calm, but Mark noticed her hand twitching. "She's still alive," Syrah nodded. "They all are." Mark turned to her. "We can't just leave them." She hesitated. "If we free them now, they won't wake up the same. Some might scream. Some might attack." They were frozen in pain. He looked around. So many faces, so many lives. "I'll take that risk." Together, they accessed the main panel. Syrah's fingers danced over the controls. She bypassed the security checks like she'd done it before. Then she stopped. "The system is linked to the core," she said. "If we release them now, the upload won't work. It'll trigger a lockdown." "Then we upload first," Mark said. "Then come back for them." Syrah looked at him. Her voice broke softly. "You promise?" Mark nodded. "I came this far, didn't I?" She smiled faintly. "Then we go." But as they turned to leave, something grabbed Mark's ankle. A hand. From one of the pods, the girl inside had opened her eyes. They were glowing white. "Don't," she rasped. "Don't trust." The voice? What voice? Mark asked. But her eyes closed again. The pod hissed and locked tight. Syrah pulled him toward the vent exit. "We need to move, now." They climbed up and entered the shaft again. This time, it was tighter and colder. Syrah crawled ahead, then stopped. "What is it?" Mark asked. She turned, eyes wide. "The vent is watching us." Mark frowned. "What are you suddenly?" The metal around them began to hum. Then a voice echoed from the shaft walls. "Subject 43 volts. Return to holding." Human 117A will be processed. Do not resist, Sira screamed. Run. The shaft behind them collapsed inward, twisting and snapping like a living throat. They crawled fast, wind howling, heat vanishing. Mark's palms bled. Sira gasped as the metal sliced her shoulder. Then light, an access hatch above. He kicked it open, pulled her up, and slammed it shut just as the tunnel behind them caved in. They lay on the floor, panting. They had made it. But Sira's arm was bleeding badly. Mark wrapped it with cloth. Almost there, he said. She didn't speak. Just stared at the disc in his hand. The last hope, and the only weapon. The command core stood like a black heart at the center of the space station. No windows. No guards. No sound. Just silence thick and heavy, like a warning. Mark and Sira stood before the sealed doors. Her shoulder still bled. His hands were raw. The disc with all the secrets pulsed in his vest pocket. This is it, he whispered. Sira nodded, her face pale but strong. If we open that door, there's no turning back. Mark gave a faint smile. Good. I'm tired of turning back. The doors scanned his face. Green light flashed. Access granted. Human ID 117A. They walked in. The room glowed with blue data streams. A single terminal waited in the center. This was the brain of the station. Every file, every order, every lie hidden here. Sira stood beside him. Once you plug it in, the AI will react. You'll have maybe 1 minute before it tries to wipe the data. Mark pulled out the silver disc. His fingers trembled. He thought of that first night, the weight of her body as she trembled in fear. Her whisper, warm. And now he understood. She hadn't just wanted safety. She had wanted someone to believe her. He slid the disc into the port. The screen lit up. Upload initiated. Suddenly, the AI spoke. Unauthorized file detected. Memory core breach. Emergency lockdown in 60 seconds. Panels on the walls began to slide open. Mechanical arms twitched. Mark's pulse raced. How long left? Sira checked the counter. 45 seconds. The room shook. Something heavy slammed against the outer walls. Then a voice echoed, low and calm. Sira, come home. Sira's eyes went wide. She looked toward the wall speaker. Who is that? Mark asked. She whispered, the voice. The one from the labs. It controlled us. The voice spoke again. You were made for purpose, not for rebellion. Return, and you will not be erased. Mark stepped in front of her. She's not going anywhere. The voice laughed. You think she chose you, human? You were an experiment too. You were meant to break. Instead, you bonded. Mark didn't flinch. Guess the test failed. Sira walked to the console. The upload hit 75%. The AI screamed. Security breach. Initiating burn protocol. Flames burst from vents. The room started to heat rapidly. Mark pulled off his jacket and covered the console to protect it. The screen hit 90%. He turned to Sira. We might not make it out. She looked at him, her face calm. I didn't survive all this to hide again. The upload reached 100%. Oh. A burst of light exploded from the terminal. Then silence. Then the station AI said, broadcast complete. All records sent to Galactic Core. Mark dropped to his knees. They did it. It was over. Or so they thought.
Ow.
The floor cracked. From beneath, a machine humanoid rose twisted, glowing, half organic. It looked like Sarah. But older, broken, controlled. It walked toward them. The voice returned. She was our best version, until she grew emotions, until she met you. Mark stood up, body aching. I won't let you take her. The machine raised its arm. A plasma blade hummed to life. Then Sira stepped forward. No, she said. You made me, but I made myself. She pulled the tool from her belt, the half-blade, half-scanner. With one deep breath, she ran forward. The clash was fast. Sparks flew. The machine staggered. Sira drove the blade into its core. It screeched and fell back arms, flailing, then crumbled into ash. Silence again. Only the sound of their breaths. Mark caught her as she fell. You okay? Sira leaned into him, weak but alive. I told you, she said softly. You're not like the others. 2 days later, the entire station was under galactic investigation. Ships arrived. Rescue teams entered sealed rooms. 23 hybrids were found alive. Each one told the same story. Each pointed to the human who had helped. Mark stood by the docking bay. Sira stepped beside him, arm now healed. They asked me where I wanted to go, she said. And I told them I already chose. Mark looked surprised. Where? She smiled gently. Wherever you go. He didn't speak. He just smiled, and together they stepped onto the ship. Not as test subjects, not as tools, but as something no lab could ever predict. As a family,